Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of MediEvil, the PS4 remaster. I played it on the PS4 because, you know, it's an exclusive. So let's start with the story. A great evil wizard is back. His name is Zarok, and unfortunately he started raising the dead and demons and turning the townfolk into, like, brainwashed zombies. Unfortunately for him, though, his spell kinda backfired and he raised Dan Fortesque back from the dead. You as Dan Fortesque must venture out on a quest to stop Zarok and save the kingdom of Galamir. By doing so, you will eventually immortalize yourself in the Hall of Heroes and become famous for real this time. As for the audio in this game, clearly the voiceover work has been remastered. It hasn't been re-recorded or anything like that, but it works well for the game because it's still very cartoony and it fits in a very cartoony game. As for the sound effects, they are very much the same as the voiceover work in that they have clearly been remastered rather than redone, and I like them because, again, they fit with the cartoony atmosphere of the game. This is a silly game. It's very much not a game that is meant to be taken seriously, and the sound effects and voiceover work both reinforce that. Lastly, you have the music, and I gotta say, I really enjoy the music in this game. It's all really well done, from the ambient music to when it cranks up to, like, show that something massive is going on. I think it works very well with the game, and the fact that they remastered it, it's nice to have that original music. Next up, the gameplay mechanics and whatnot. This is kind of a hack and slash more than anything. While there are some platforming elements, the focus is more on running around, performing your mission, and the combat. And I like the way that they do that. It's a mission by mission kind of game. You have an overworld map where you can move a little icon around and select which mission to go on. There are some kind of branching paths, but they don't really lead anywhere or really affect the ending. They just help you find more gear to become a better hero. I also very much enjoy the Hall of Hero aspect that I mentioned earlier. It's also a gameplay mechanic. In each level, you are essentially tasked with taking down a certain number of enemies, and once you have each of their souls will go into a chalice. You get a hero chalice, which grants you access to the Hall of Heroes, where you will get new weapons, new shields, just all sorts of other stuff that will help you get through the game. And it does really make a big difference the further you get in the game, and there's a lot of other stuff that's in the game that makes you need to go back. Not necessarily need to go back, but collectibles and whatnot. I also like that it's very easy to go back and replay levels. That makes, you know, going back and getting chalices that you missed or other items and things that you may have missed previously. It's also a good way to go back and restore your health. You can go back to an easier mission, go and restore your health there, find the other health items, etc., and then go on to whatever your next mission is, which is harder and probably going to kick your ass a little. Then you've got the controls, and unfortunately this is one of the downsides of this game. While the hack and slash and the jumping, that all works well and is responsive, the movement is unfortunately pretty shit. Moving around in this game is just not good. It's very clumsy and it makes some of the platforming more difficult than it needs to be. It works well enough for most of the stuff, but when you need to be more precise and you need that extra precision for platforming, it's not there, and it can make some of the stuff a little more frustrating than it needs to be. That being said, unlike the original game, you have control of your camera because, remember, once upon a time there was not two sticks. Hell, this came out when there weren't even sticks on a controller. So having camera control is nice. They do lock it down sometimes, and I like that they do that because there are times where you don't need camera control and it's helpful that they lock it down. But overall, apart from the movement, I think the controls work well, but that movement can be a pain. Lastly, the graphics. There are a few details in this game that I just wish looked better. There are just some things that don't look as sharp as they could. It doesn't look like the lines have been cleaned up at all. And the first and most noticeable point that I saw this was in the opening cutscene. Zarok's out on a field and all the grass just looks like shit. And it may sound silly to complain about something like that, but it's really noticeable when the lines have clearly been redone and cleaned up on Zarok, but then all the grass looks really horrible, ye ancient pixels. That being said, I love the art style in this game. I do like that cartoony, old school vibe that it has. I also like that it's a good and colorful game, despite the fact most of it seems to take place at like night, but it is colorful and it's just a fun looking game. That being said, you can really tell that it is a remaster and there are things that just don't look quite as good as they would nowadays. It doesn't feel like all the same effort was put into it. That being said, this doesn't look terrible, I just think it could look better. Overall, I gotta say, I enjoyed going back and playing this, and I will admit there's probably some nostalgia there for me. This was a game that I played when I was a kid. I was much younger then. But going back and revisiting it was a lot of fun for me, and I think in general, it's a fun game to go back and play. And I've gotta say, at $30, I think that's a good value for this game. If it was any more expensive, I would be more disappointed. Just because we have seen other remasters that put a lot more work in, and on top of that, this didn't include the second game, which I really wish it had. Because overall, it's actually a fairly short experience, but there's enough there to keep you going longer than you'd expect. Overall, I gotta say, I recommend it. I had a lot of fun going back and playing this game. I think a lot of people will enjoy that aspect, but even if it's not a nostalgia trip for you, I think there's a fun game there for everyone to enjoy. Okay, so in the comments below, why don't you tell me, is there a game out there that just hits that nostalgia chord for you? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share, subscribe. Have a good one.